Confession by Quain Holtey. Narrated by Quain Holtey. The top of my feet drag against the rough concrete. Rougher hands hoist me from my armpits as I am dragged through my undeserved home. "Could you lift me a little higher?" I ask, not looking up. The concrete's wearing holes through my shoes, and it's starting to hurt. A thick, stiff pain finds its way into my gut, placed there by the swinging cudgel in the offhand of the right guard, Porter. It tells me everything he feels about me without words, yet he still feels the need to speak. I suppress a chuckle at the joke that comes unspoken to my lips, one about the criminal justice system, and how it teaches dogs to speak, even when they have nothing to say. "Shut it, Fillmore," Porter says. "Can's waiting. I'm done being nice." "Nice?" I give the rough floor a smile as it scrapes my skin raw. "I'd hate to see you upset." Another whack from the cudgel, this time where my neck meets my skull. Blackness mixes with white stars as they dance static across my vision, reminding me of the sensations of oblivion moments before consciousness robs me of its bliss. I blink as the smell of cinnamon enters my nose. Strange. Oblivion usually smells like chocolate. "You could have killed the man, Fillmore. You know that?" The guard to my left has a younger voice and struggles to keep pace with the other. I slip from his grip for a moment before he fumbles for control again. Control I don't feel the need to retain. "Don't you have any remorse?" "Animals like Fillmore can't feel remorse, Buckley," Porter says, "and talking to them ain't no help, so shut your yap, too." "Oh, come on," I say. The ends of my words slur in a way that pleases my ears but frustrates my tongue. If I've learned anything from this place, we're all animals in the end. I expect the cudgel again, even as I smile. God knows it's what someone like Porter wants to give me, and there's a strange satisfaction in manipulation, even if it ends with affliction. But we arrive at my saving grace, and instead of the pain of a wooden stick, I'm greeted with the pain of my joints bouncing against the hard floor. I see the form of a bed and the curve of a metal toilet before the door behind me closes with a sliding clank and thrusts me into mechanical darkness. The darkness achieved only by nature's deep caves or man's deep sadism. Metal screeches against metal as light flashes into the room through a small window at the door. "Enjoy the can, Fillmore," Porter calls through the slated grate. "Couple days in solitary should make you change your tune. Buckley'll be back with your dinner later on." Metal reverses against metal, though it plays the same tune, and I am once again floating in the primordial darkness at the beginning of the universe. I wait for my eyes to adjust, for the small slivers of light leaking through the cracks of man-made seams to grant me silhouettes of my surroundings. The silhouettes never come. In the pitch, I take off my shoes. The tops have ground away, the cloth loose and wet with the blood granted by guards too weak to lift me higher. But I don't care about that. My flesh will heal, and I'll get new shoes that are, somehow, worse. What I care about is under the flap of my right shoe, between the thin plastic sole and the cloth. The small square of paper is bent at the corners and sides by its thin plastic film and the curve of my heel as I pull it free. I know what it shows, even in the black. I've memorized the flip of her otherwise straight black hair as it ends at her shoulders. Her smile not only reaches but consumes her eyes until they are nothing but slits, and their deep brown color is lost to all but memory. The wrinkled yellow dress she had demanded to wear that day, despite outgrowing it 6 months prior and having other, newer, nicer clothes that fit her growing body, is bright against her smooth brown skin. I don't need light to show me my daughter. Her creases and curves shine brighter in my memory than any light ever could. "He deserved it, Amber." My voice is a reverent whisper that's far too loud. "He deserved it. I won't let anyone talk about you like that, my sweet girl. No one." Receding footsteps betray guards who had wanted to listen to the screams I refused to give, the pain I refused to feel. As I talk to my Amber, the only company I receive is that of my echoing whispers playing against the black brick and steel. I won't repeat what he said. You don't deserve to hear such vulgarity. I am sorry, though. Regardless of the untrue claims that put me in this place, I'm afraid I'm becoming more like the criminal they all think I am. But he spoke such disgusting words, Amber. So I broke his teeth against the concrete step in the courtyard. I am not crazy. I know her picture cannot hear me, but I find comfort in the memory of her face. Her picture is warm in my hands, growing ever warmer, and it feels like reassurance. If I make believe enough, I can almost hear her voice in the echoes of my whispers. I listen as it glides over the air like light filtered through the leaves of the oak tree in our front yard where she swings, still in my memory. Where I hope she still swings, even after so many months in this hell. More voices join the whispers, and I open my eyes to stare at nothingness, the tightness of my muscles the only sign of my confusion in the dark. Her lilt is lost in the noise that is now the overlapping monotone of two distant sounds, coalescing into an amorphous buzz like cicadas that drains me of energy. "Hello?" I ask. "Is someone there?" Nothing. I know there is nothing. It cannot be her. She swings in the oak tree, older now but just as precious. Her light would turn this pitch into the sun if she were here, and she would crumble the prison with her purity. She isn't in the walls, for these walls can't contain her. Yet the nothing still speaks, still buzzes. Its words are unknowable, yet its tone is tempting. Tempting me to look inside, to stare at the visions that threaten to flash in my mind's eye. There's a lull in the whispers, the smell of motor oil, the gleam of metal. No. I kick the nothing away, and my mind becomes clear. I ignore the whispering buzz as I find the hard slab whose lies say it's a bed. The cold steel beneath me seeps through my clothes and grasps my flesh, but doesn't pierce my bones. I fight against it as the whispers tickle my scalp, and my heat gives the slab life that offers some comfort between my relaxing bones and my aching joints. The comfort only ever granted by unyielding beds. Before the whispers' tickles become scratches, I lose myself to sleep, and in that same breath I think I hear her voice again among them, whispering. Her words unintelligible, but her love clear. I scamper through the forest. My vision is strange. It's as though I can see all the world around me, and I must turn my head to look forward. The damp dirt and leaves devoid of crunch form around my feet, my hooves, as I run. I am a deer, I think. The cool air against my fur is something I hardly notice, as though I can feel the chill pressing against me, but I refuse to let it in. The forest is quieter than it should be. It's both a place I've never been and one I am intimately familiar. I've spent a lifetime running through these trees, growing alongside them, some of them dying alongside those I once called family. This forest is my home, and I never feel safer than when I am here. Except it's quieter than it should be. I feel the pressure before the pain, the slam of energy that sends my waist twisting as the arrow embeds itself into the meat of my hind leg. I make no sound, no grunt of pain, even as it pierces me. I don't disturb the forest silence. Instead, I run. The world swims by me faster than ever before. I flick my head to either side just a little, to ensure the path ahead is unimpeded, and rely on the rushing landscape to either side as my guide. There are shouts from behind me, big, whooping, unnatural shouts. Their echoes grow distant as I grow tired. The cold seeps into my leg along the arrow's shaft, breaking free from its need of my invitation. The arrow is invitation enough. I stumble. Not for the first time, but more seriously. My injured leg cramps as I hop, and slips on the damp leaves, twisting me to the forest floor. The arrow tugs as it pushes deeper and scrapes against my flesh as it snaps at an awkward angle when I hit the ground. Now I yelp, a squeaking high yip of shock that bounces through the branches and trunks of my home. No yips respond, no birds chirp, no elk call, no bears roar. On the cold ground, exhausted from my run, I am alone. "Knew you'd collapse," a human says as he steps into my view. "Was counting on it, really. But hell, you sure can run, can't you?" My legs scrape uselessly on the ground as I try to gain my feet. Instead, I run sideways on the dirt, moving nowhere as the man comes close. "Damn, you broke the arrow." He brushes a bare hand over my side, right where my torso meets my hip. "It's all right. I know you didn't mean to. Just frustrating is all." My scream is unnatural to my flicking ears as he pulls the arrow out of my leg. The cold floods in through the wound as my heat escapes from it. My pain worsens. My loneliness grows. Then he wraps a rope around my legs. I kick and scream, and he laughs and holds me down. I think it will be like Dindedre, a name I don't know yet shocks me with loss. A memory that isn't my own of another deer being carried away from the forest by another hunter, dead, with his legs tied together. But my hunter doesn't tie my legs together. He pulls them in different directions, wrapping their ends around nearby trunks and yanking them taut until my muscles scream in unnatural ways as I am exposed, looking up at the sun through my home's canopied roof. "It's all right," the hunter says, looming over me like a tree himself, a tree with sharp branches and leaves of knives. "You can scream. I'm counting on it, really." The knives come for my ankles, circling the flesh and slipping between my fur and muscle. He cuts up, careful not to cut too deep, and the pain of the fine edge is like a tickling brush mixed with a hornet's sting that never ends. Then he starts pulling it away, and the sound of ripping flesh sends fear through my heart, pain through my muscles, and vibrations through the taut ropes that deny my kicks, deny my only way of fighting. I scream, and the hunter laughs. I wake. Sweat is a cold sheen on my back. The aches and the steel bed hide in my senses' periphery, chased away by adrenaline pounding my heart. The room is still dark, unbearably so. For a moment I think I see the hunter's crooked smile in front of me, but like a dream it fades and takes the adrenaline with it. I find comfort in my daughter's smile. I brush my finger over her face, my fingernail tickling the gap in the top row of her teeth from where she had lost one the day before. She hadn't wanted to smile, but I had told her a joke. Her hair blurs as it bobs with her laughter while the picture is taken. And that moment is captured forever in this photo at the bottom of my shoe. My heart and my breathing slow. And the whispers return. Not return. They never left. Consciousness returns my headache, only just a threat before my nightmare, but now it splits my brain vertically above my left eye, and I squint it as though the room is bright. The whispers threaten me. They claw at my brain, begging for entry like the cold before the arrow. Then they are sweet, like old friends come to wish me well as I rot in my dark cell. Only, it's a little less dark. Ahead, in the void, floats a patch of gray barely lighter than the black. Its edges are irregular, like sprouting mold across rancid meat. But the gray is not light. It offers no indication of anything in the room, choosing to hold its secrets behind its jagged halo that threatens to grow until it surrounds the entire room and chokes me with stale and spores. I touch it. I don't remember walking to it from the bed, but I'm at the door now. It's warm. Its edges evaporating as they bleed into the darkness are a gradient that leads to its center, a speck of gray, medium gray, the color that might as well be the sun in my cell. It feels like sunlight and freedom, but not in the way sunlight offers freedom. It burns with the freedom of release and acceptance, but not forgiveness. And as I stare into that offer, the whispers grow louder, and the flashes of steel and oil and music return. I scratch and tear at the mold. Whether by some trick of lunacy or an understanding of the unknown, I know it is the source of the cicadas, the whispers. I scratch, pull it away, drag the warmth off the wall and into me from beneath my fingernail as the brittle keratin bends but doesn't break against the steel door the mold grows on. The whispers subside as thin streaks of scraped mold form. I wipe my nails against my pants, returning to continue my efforts, to quiet the whispers, and offer my head a reprieve from its splitting ache. With each scrape I hear something, someone, a single voice in the chorus of whispers still too weak to comprehend, save for one diminishing command, to gaze into the gray center. Fear overtakes me all at once as the whispers return to pound against my mind. A flash in my soul steals my senses and forces me to fall backward as I shout at the whispering temptations. I stare up at remnants of mold, and it stares blindly over me, like an angel gazing on an ant. Every part of me begs me to move, but I can't. It isn't like the stories, where my mind is supposed to beg my leaden legs into motion, but the opposite. My legs and arms twitch and twist, but I cannot guide them. It is an uncontrolled convulsion that needs direction from someone who isn't wrapped in the whisper's attacks. Then light breaks into my cell with the sound of screeching metal and chases away the murmuring buzz of the unknown, blinding me with its brilliance. Through the now open grate on the door, a real voice, somehow more synthetic than my previous companions, carries into the metal cell. "Mealtime!" The voice is familiar, young and inexperienced. Buckley. Another slat opens at the door's foot, and a tray is pushed in to keep me company. Metal ekes against itself as the light is shaved away and the grate closes. "Please," I say. I've gained control of my limbs again, and use them to stand. "Please, let me eat in the light. Please?" He stares at me through the grate, his blue eyes narrowed by a furrowed, too far forward brow. I do not care for his company, nor the light he offers, but in his presence the whispers have dissipated, and my head revels in the sanctuary I wish to last just a little longer. "Few hours in solitary and you're already begging, Fillmore?" Porter would have been condescending to me. He would have gloated and bragged and shut me away with the darkness and the angel of mold as a point of cruelty. Buckley's voice holds no such quality. He's only curious. "I'm not begging." I drag the tray closer to myself. "I'm asking. Nicely. A man isn't meant to eat in the dark." "A man doesn't deserve to have his teeth kicked in, either. Didn't stop you." Still, the light remains. "What'd Jefferson say to you, anyway?" Buckley asks. "Violence like that must have been one hell of a reason." There is an unexpressed timidity in the guard's voice, an unspoken question. It asks me if I would commit violence without a reason, if I really am a feral beast, instead of the human my flesh suggests. "He threatened my daughter," I say simply between flavorless bites. Or, well, suggested I threatened my daughter. Her purity. Accusing a man, a father, of something so horrendous. Any man who would suggest that doesn't deserve teeth. His words had been much fiercer than that, but they were too disgusting to repeat. Too disgusting for anyone's daughter, much less my Amber. "Why are you in here, Fillmore?" The bread doesn't soften as I dip it into the mashed potatoes. Instead, it is simultaneously wet and dry as I rip and chew, and I discover it has another contradiction. The potatoes are filled with coarse spices and vegetables, yet offer no flavor. "I shouldn't be," I say. "My wife ran off with her lover. Took my daughter with her. No one knew where they went, and that doesn't sit right with people. Not knowing. Instead, they say they must be dead. That I killed them." "So you were framed?" Buckley asks. His voice bleeds with amusement. "People aren't thrown in prison without evidence, Fillmore." "And they didn't find any. Nothing that says it happened, 'cause it didn't. Nothing to say I did it, 'cause I didn't." I take another bite of my bread. Its dry crust scores rough cuts into my gums. "But that doesn't stop people from talking. From rumoring. Doesn't matter what the law says about your guilt if the whole world has already made up its mind." "So you're in here because you were found innocent?" I think about Jefferson and the lies he told. The straw that broke me. I remember what I had told Amber before the whispers started, and feel my soul take another step toward the man the prison wants me to be at the memory of my crime. I look up at Buckley's blue eyes. "I'm in here because there's only so long a man can hear that he killed his wife and daughter. I'm in here because when the rumors didn't stop, I had to put an end to them myself. I'm in here because when people accuse a man of violence he isn't capable of, he becomes capable. And those people send you to jail when they can't handle the consequences of their slander." My answer satisfies Buckley, or scares him. Regardless, I spend the rest of my meal in light-filled silence until I slide the tray back through the grate on the ground. "Thank you," I say. I think I hear a gruff of acknowledgement before my world is bathed in the blackness that robs my mind of clarity. When it does, I see the ring of mold return. It's grown in the light, refilled the scrapes I had taken and spread until its edges no longer bleed into the black, but are a stark halo surrounding the now light gray speck in the center. The fear returns, but the angel above me denies its envelopment of my heart. My eyes water as I stare. My ears ring and my head splits with the cicada buzz of whispers. Then I see more. I see a blue sedan on a jack. I see a figure, 2 figures, 3 figures. Their voices join the whispers along with the rhythm of music, and I know what I see without wanting to remember. They live in the speck of white at the angel's center as it calls to me, begging me to gaze into it with a single, intelligible word. Confess. I flee to its edges, unable to look away but unwilling to look at the light gray nightmare. And in the periphery of the growing madness, I fall into unconsciousness once again on the floor of my cell. Please, I beg, please let me out of here. My muscles strain as I press up against the lid of my coffin. It remains resolute. My knuckles bleed as I resort to hitting the wood in my frustration once again, and like before, a before I have both experienced and is like a foreign memory, the lid doesn't budge from beneath the piled dirt, and my hands come away even worse than before, new blood smears joining the old in layered streaks like brushstrokes above me. Strips of LED lights line the interior of my coffin to either side before snaking out of pinprick holes that prove my burial. When I had woken up, I had thought this was a mistake or a bad dream, but why bury someone with lights in their coffin? That's when I had noticed the cameras. There are 3, so far as I can tell, only being able to move my head so much. Each is a small, single lens behind a square of hard plastic that stares at me with red refracting eyes. I crane my neck to look up at the one above my head, the first one I had noticed. Please. There is no answer. I pray to a God I hadn't known in decades. I beg him, if not the man behind the cameras, to help me find a way out, to help me live. In his silence, I am reminded why I abandoned my belief, and tears of frustration stain my cheeks once again. Breathing is like gasping through a straw. The harder I inhale, the harder it becomes. I imagine it is like the air atop mountain peaks higher than I had ever climbed, only it is not thin and sharp, but thick and humid with my condensed exhalations. I know I should slow down, that I should make my air last, but I can't help but hyperventilate. My heart races as my lungs catch fire, despite how desperately I try to calm them both. Then I am shown the truth. I think it is a revelation from God, despite my blasphemy, and I hope he grants me his strength to carry it through. I have no control over my coffin. I cannot turn off the lights, I cannot blind the cameras, and I cannot bring myself new air. But, I realize, I have control over my death. Whether I make it slow and agonize myself for my murderer's entertainment, or I frustrate my killer and expedite my demise. I look up into the camera above my head, my neck cramping between my shoulder blades. I breathe, quickly giving in to the hyperventilation, encouraging it. My chest heaves as I rob the coffin of oxygen and stare defiantly into the infrared eye of my killer until unconsciousness finds me, with death soon behind. I gasp in the stale air as I awaken on the concrete floor of my cell. The darkness is an alien friend that chases the pain of suffocation away, and I am grateful for it. Then the angel's whispers flood my ears, and I long for that pain to return. Opening my eyes is a struggle, as the sound beats down my eyelids and threatens to destroy my corneas. No light touches my concrete cave, yet as I look to where I know the door to be, the angel's light has grown. Its edged halo is now light gray and harsh against the pitch, as though halted against invisible walls, and I see a shape in the mold staring down at me. A silhouette stands before me like an impossible reflection. The now white center like a hole in its head that seeps into the gray before stopping at the edges. The body trails down and gives the suggestion of a neck, shoulders, torso, and arms, though it fades into black before I see its hands and waist. "What are you?" I ask. "What do you want from me? Please, just leave me alone." They grow in response to my pleas. I try to tear my eyes away, to look into the safety of the void rather than face the purgatory of the light. I cover my ears, but the whispers permeate my brain, splitting my mind like an axe. Instead of keeping them out, they echo in my head, compounding until I nearly explode. Music returns to the angels' voices, steady and strong, but its chords are undefined. No matter how hard I try to resist, I'm drawn to that light, to the pure white speck at the center of the angel's head. I peer into that white infinity, seeing an endless spiral that surrounds my world. The blue sedan, the liar and the cheat, the drug-filled haze. Amber. I claw my eyes, and the screams that leave me are as unintelligible as the whispers that cause them. My shirt is in my hands, and I am at the wall, scrubbing away at the impossible mold as I deny it, deny my headaches, my nightmares. My screams are animal, and my fingernails are wet as they tear free of my fingers against the steel. Yet no matter my efforts, the whispers grow louder, and their words clearer. Confess. Admit. Repent. I've done nothing wrong. Help me, help, please, somebody, please help. My cries are drowned by the angel's words and music, and another fit of unconsciousness threatens to steal my soul, but then they fade. Footsteps I barely consider real approach. When the knock on the door comes, the whispers vanish, though the angel still bores into me with its single white eye right up until the sliding grate decapitates it and makes it disappear in the blinding light from outside. Light. I had forgotten how it felt, caressing my skin like hope. The angel offers its own light that suffocates, while this sets me free with warmth on my face, real warmth. Warmth and the sound of a person. Screaming pretty bad in here, Fillmore. Buckley's familiar voice is soothing liquid to my brain. It floods and coddles my mind in its embrace. Can't tell me that you're that afraid of the little dark, are ya? Please, I say. It's a whimper too small for a man. Please don't shut the grate again. Please just let me out. I won't hurt anyone. I'm sorry. I'll buy him new teeth. I'll take the chair. Please, just don't let the angel have me. I sound pathetic to my own ears, and maybe there was a time when I would have cared. Whoever that man had been wasn't me any longer. He was a stranger, threatened into a corner and on the brink of death. In the silence that follows my plea, I know Buckley thinks the same. The man he had pulled in here wasn't the same one he saw now. So much has changed in so little time. How long have I been here? 2 nightmares, so 2 nights, but only 1 meal. What's in your hands, Fillmore? Buckley's voice is firm and hard, that of a guard with more years under his belt, and it barely sounds like him. It doesn't sound like him. Porter. I look down at my hands, and in the light see my beautiful Amber smiling up at me, the edges of her photo bent inward and bending the light in a line across her teeth. I return her smile and caress her cheek as the metal door slides open on its track. My world shatters as I am helpless to resist the guard's attack that leaves me broken and curled on the floor. My Amber becomes the yellow remnant of her dress on the torn corner between my thumb and finger. I scream as the door squeaks closed and the angel returns. I cry as the whispers overtake the retreating footsteps, and I crumble as another nightmare beats against my consciousness at my refusal to confess. I lie on a bed I have lived in for years. The steady, tormenting beeps of my vitals display on the monitor to my right I have never been able to see. I am trapped, my own body my prison after the accident. My muscles have grown stale, their atrophy staved off only by the electrode therapy I receive. My stomach cramps with shriveled emptiness as I am fed through an IV. My coma is a nightmare, kept constant by my mother too guilt-ridden to let me die. I wish she would. Footsteps betray entrance to my room. I expect her voice, or perhaps a nurse's. They like to talk to themselves through me. Instead, it is a man's voice I do not recognize, hushed as he whispers close to my ear. "It's okay," he says. "I'm here to take care of you. I always take care of my special girls." Hope fills me as a new coldness seeps through my arm from my IV. An angel of death, I think, finally come to grant me release. He opens my eyes, and I see my savior staring down at me. He is old, fat. The grease strings out his hair, and his beard is a gray, wired, smiling mess. He is dressed in nice clothing, but he is not dressed nicely. His smile is loving and kind and crooked, and the mere idea of death is enough to make me love him. The heart monitor tells me of my pain before my body does. Its steady beeps quicken, and eventually my chest grows tight and achy. Pain racks a body that refuses to react to it, my soul cringing and begging it to stop while I lay limp. I think it is almost over when it increases. Every part of me tries to constrict, to recoil like a hand from a flame, but I can't. Fear takes control and worsens the pain. I don't want to die anymore. I want to hear my mother talk about home, my nurses talk about work. I want to feel the electrodes stimulate my muscles and chase away the burning agony that now courses through them unimpeded. Instead, I can only stare into the smiling eyes of my angel, my devil, as death meanders its arrival, and seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours.
"There you go, sweetie," my devil says. "I told you. I always take care of my special girls."
Another nightmare follows as I refuse the angel's siren song. And another. And another. I don't know how much time passes between each one. I am killed, I am raped, I am tortured, I am robbed. An endless barrage of pain, each ending with the cicada whispers of the growing silhouette that eventually stands as a white, lightless reflection of myself, its gray edges barely distinguishable from the pure white of its center, a center that offers the worst nightmare of all, one I flee from again and again in preference of death and rape and torture. I refuse it. I cannot hope to attack it, to scrape it away or cleanse it, but I can endure it. The angel cannot torture me forever. My solitude will end, and the scrap of yellow that is my amber will hold me through until it does. Help me, I beg, for the light to return, for footsteps to chase the whispers away. Those brief respites of warmth, though they come with the guard's harassment, are my sanctuary from the torment. Soon the doors will open, and I will be carried out, but until then even a moment's rest is enough for me to beg. Please, help me. Footsteps play behind the splitting whispers. They signal my freedom, perhaps permanently, from this pain. I smile as I stare up at the angel, knowing its death has come, knowing I have won. But the whispers do not cease. Where once they faded, now they grow, somehow louder than tumultuous, drowning out the boots against concrete behind the door. Hope taints in my heart, becomes fear as impossible truth becomes reality. The grate slides open to reveal the light. The angel remains. Climb into me, it says. Its voice is louder than whoever speaks from beyond the door. It drinks in the light and robs me of any hope I may have had of feeling peace ever again. This will only end when you confess. No. I cling to the yellow scrap of Amber's dress and become a bank teller whose knees are blown away by a shotgun before my head is caved in by a boot. The only freedom is in confession. No. My eyes are clawed out before I am put down like an animal. Amber is waiting. Amber is waiting. My Amber is waiting. The grated window closes, and the only thing that offers me grace that is now useless and dead is plunged into darkness. But my Amber is waiting if I simply... I confess. I can't feel anything anymore. The scrap of paper in my hand is little more than dyed woven fibers. I've forgotten what was on it. All I can see or feel or taste or hear is the white whispers of the angel. And as I stare into the center of its bright silhouette, I am shown what I've known to be true, but what I have refused to believe. I awake to the sound of fighting in the garage. It's my mother, again. But what's she doing in Daddy's garage? Sleep is difficult to stave away as I throw off the covers and stumble to my feet. My socks do little to protect me from the cold floor that steals the warmth I had earned under my blankets. It isn't until I'm downstairs that I understand how late it is. How early. 1:45. They're fighting late. Again. The garage is across the driveway. It's nearly as large as my house and larger than the backyard it stands next to. Daddy likes it big because that's where he works, but it means I have to tug on my sweater and brave the bitter wind to reach it. Music plays beneath their screams of rage that had no doubt hidden the worst of their argument before it had escalated. It always escalates. Their fights aren't always so loud, but it isn't new. Once our neighbor, Mrs. Fredrickson, came over to tell them to stop. Daddy said he wished they could, but Mom wasn't home. I know they'll stop when they see me. They always do. It's for Mrs. Fredrickson. I shuffle across the concrete drive to the open garage door. Otherwise, I think I would have tried falling back asleep. Before I enter, there's a clang, like the sound of hollow metal beaten with a wooden mallet. A scream threatens the air, unheard but felt, before another clang and a slump finishes it before it begins. The fighting stops, and the music retakes center stage. I wonder if it's worth it to step into the garage. If the fighting was over, without my intervention, then I could go back to sleep instead. Mrs. Fredrickson's night would have the same outcome no matter what. But Daddy always tucks me in when he puts me to sleep, and the thought of that warm coddle is too tempting, and I am closer to the garage than the house now anyway. I take several steps inside before I register what I see. The blue sedan Daddy is working on is still up on the jack, far above my head. Daddy stands in front of it, a long metal rod he once told me was called a tire iron in his hand. He looks tired, even from behind. His hair is spiked in the back like he just woke up, and I wonder if my hair looks like his. "Daddy?" I ask. The music is almost unbearable. The heavy rock Daddy likes crashes and blares on the speakers around the garage, and I have to get close for him to hear me. I step behind him, my footsteps drowned in the noise. Tired from their fight, Mom lies on the ground in front of him, next to the man she's been having sex with. She doesn't know I know, and she doesn't think I know what sex is, but I had watched movies I shouldn't have at Katie Nguyen's house 3 months ago, so I knew what sex and love were. I also knew that love wasn't real, at least not for Mom and Daddy, but maybe it was for Mom and the man on the ground. "Daddy?" I ask again, now behind him. I see the same sleepy grog I am still waking up from in his eyes as he spins around. I have time enough to think that the metal rod, the tire iron, is swinging fast in his outstretched hand before pain makes sleep impossible, and I collapse to the ground. "Amber?" Daddy asks. "Amber, baby, can you hear me? Amber, sweetie. Oh no, 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 no." He keeps going, and I feel his arms wrap under my head and legs, his body swirling around me like a tucked-in blanket. I would have loved it, if not for the pain in my head. It was hard to think, to feel. The garage was black, though I could still smell the cold. "Everything's going to be all right, sweetie. Daddy's got you. Daddy'll take care of you. Amber?" The smell of cold and iron is the last thing I know. I do not wake. There is no more wakefulness. Perhaps there never was. I watch as the door swings open minutes after my confession, and the guards take what was once my body out of the room and escort it back to its cell. Buckley talks to it, and Porter smacks the back of its knees with his cudgel. I am alone with the others in this cell, and their presence is the thick fog that makes the darkness. Darkness only achievable through nature's dark caves, and man's dark sadism. Each of us is tormented by our own truths. The man who tortured animals and eventually tortured humans. The woman who had buried 17 victims alive and had watched them fade with infrared eyes. The angel of death who had claimed 38 of his special girls. Dozens of us, hundreds of us, trapped in an endless loop of our crimes. Amber is gone. I killed her. I knew it once. I know it again now. She is gone, and it is my fault. She will never grow up, never swing under the filtered light of the oak tree, never be my little girl ever again. Yet here, in the darkness the angel has given me, I can be with her again. Though its end destroys me with her death, I experience her life, her love, ever briefly. In the worst memory of my life, she breathes still. The door creaks open, and another inmate is thrown inside before being abandoned to the darkness we create. He scoffs and snickers and feels the edges of our home as he finds the metal slab that pretends to be a bed and lays down. He drapes an arm over his eyes, as though there were light to block out, and drifts into sleep. As he drifts, the angel extends its offer to me, to be with my Amber once more through sharing my memory, sharing my nightmare. I will never deny myself that opportunity ever again. I accept the angel's gift, and together the inmate and I awaken to the sounds of fighting and music coming from the garage outside.